Welcome to our training session. Today is 11th day training session. So today we are going to learn about Apex coding, Apex methods, everything. So today our agenda is first we will be having the coding and the training will be there. After the break we will be having continue with the training. Finally we will have a Q&A. So today's speaker is Adityan. So I think everyone is familiar with him, and he is having 10 plus certification. The technical lead, he is a top community contributor. So you can reach out to him if you have any doubt on his LinkedIn, so that he can help you and guide you.
Okay, thank you. Myself Adityan and I'm having around 7+ years of experience and holding 10 certifications. So my complete experience is on Salesforce ecosystem. My total years of experience and relevant are just one and same. And I'm wishing you all the very best for your amazing journey on Salesforce. I feel this session could be of some help to you. It could be like a stepping stone for you towards reaching your goal on the Salesforce ecosystem. Wishing you all happy coding, and let's get started. So as part of our previous session, we understood what trigger is all about. So I will just give a very quick recap on what trigger is about, and then we can go through the examples so that we will be getting enough expertise on the concept of triggers. So trigger is something which is like a component we have inside Salesforce. So we have many other components, and how is trigger different from them? Trigger is different because trigger is event centric. Okay, what is event centric? Event centric is nothing but the component will be executed automatically by itself when a specific event happens, rather than you calling it manually, or rather than you executing it explicitly. Trigger will call itself automatically. Trigger will be called by itself. You don't really have to do anything. But okay, now we understood trigger will be executed by itself. Okay, when will it do it means when some specific event happens. What is that event? That event is nothing but a DML event. So that is why we call trigger as a event centric Apex component, because whenever DML happens, immediately trigger execution will happen. You are not telling to the trigger, hey trigger, why don't you go and execute now? Trigger is doing it by itself the moment a event happens. Then does it mean that if I do DML on opportunity, will my trigger on account file means? No. Trigger is event centric provided that it is also object specific, which means you will be writing your trigger on the object for which you want some logic execution to happen. So if you have a trigger on account object, and if you perform a DML on account, only then that account trigger will fire, else it will not fire. So trigger is event centric and also object specific. Okay, when we say DML events, the advantage of trigger is looking at DMLs from two sides. One, before saving the record, and second one, after saving the record. But whereas when we deal with workflows or process builders, I'm not taking flows into consideration because flows got evolved so recently to a very great extent. But when we look at workflows and process builders, they always get executed only after a record is saved. But whereas when we speak about a trigger looks at two sides of the coin, due to which trigger execution happens before saving of a record, and trigger execution happens after saving of a record, due to which the events that we have for a trigger are 7 in count. What are they? Before insert, before update, after update, before delete, after delete, and then we also have something called as after undelete. We do not have before undelete. Reason being, we know that we are writing triggers on objects. When you say before undelete, the record is actually present in the recycle bin but not in the actual object container, due to which even if you write before undelete, it will be hard for the system to understand what kind of logic has to be executed on what kind of record based on what trigger, because you don't know the object to which the record belongs to unless you actually retrieve it. Recycle bin is holding records of all the objects, due to which before undelete is not something which is possible for us. Only after undelete is made available. Then okay, fine. So we have events, and then we should also understand one more point here. When you write workflow, or when you write a flow, or when you write a process builder, you don't really have to worry about bulkification. Reason being, they are given by Salesforce as part of the out-of-box provision. As part of the admin module, they gave us something. So even if you load 1 lakh records into system at once, or even if you just try to create one record, system will not break, because they were given by Salesforce in such a way that they are able to handle bulkification. In the same way, when you are writing a trigger, it is your responsibility to make sure that your trigger is not failing, even if the user is trying to insert multiple records at once, or even if the user is trying to insert only single record. So bulkification is something which is very, very important while writing any code inside Salesforce. Okay. For achieving bulkification, Salesforce made it quite easy for us. How? By giving us some context variables. They said us that if you make use of these context variables, then automatically your code is bulkified. Try to leverage the context variables to the core so that your code is bulkified and you don't really have to worry about your system breaking, even if someone is trying to load bulk records at once. Okay. What are these context variables and how can we make use of them? Now, for for understanding it, let us assume that trigger is nothing but a class that is written inside Salesforce. Trigger is nothing but a class. In that class, we have these 4 variables. New is one variable present in the class called trigger. New map is one variable present in this class. Old is a variable. Old map is also a variable. When we say new variable is of data type list of a subject. We know that Apex is a strongly typed programming language, due to which for any variable you create, you need to specify its data type first. Without specifying data type, you cannot create a variable. So the variable new is of type list of s object. New map is of type this, old is of type this, old map is of type this. Now let us understand why is this new for. Basically trigger dot new, when you say trigger dot new, this variable will hold the list of records that are being inserted or updated, or maybe undeleted also, undeleted. So this variable will be holding. If you insert only one record, okay, trigger dot you will hold only one record. If you are inserting 10 records by using anonymous block, okay, trigger dot new will hold 10 records. If you are inserting 100 records by using data loader, trigger dot new will hold 100 records. So trigger dot new basically will hold the records that are being inserted or updated or undeleted. It doesn't mean that it can hold only multiple records. It can hold multiple records. I mean, as it is capable to hold multiple records, it is so evident that it can also hold a single record. New map. Difference between new and new map is the data type, point number 1. And second thing is, new map will be available only once you save a record. If at all a record is available in the system, only then new map can be used. Reason being, we know that for a map, key is mandatory. You cannot have an entry in a map without having the key populated. Now, if you see, the key is of type ID. ID of the record will be available only once a record is saved, due to which this is available only for after insert, before update, after update. If you see here, that is what we have written, only when a record is inserted or updated. Then when we speak about old basically speaks about updation. You are trying to update something. Okay, from which value to which value you are updating? So what is the old value? That is something which will be present in old. And when we say old map, the data type is different here. Now, for each event, we made note of the trigger context variables that are actually being available for us. We know that only trigger.new is available in the before insert event. Reason being, the record is not saved yet. The record is not holding ID, due to which it is just trigger.new. When we say after insert, yes, record got saved but not committed into the database, due to which we have trigger.new and trigger.new map. Why do we not have trigger.old here? Because when you say old, you need to have a old value. This is a brand new record, so we do not have any old value, due to which old and old map are not available for us. Okay, when we say before update, trigger.new will hold the values that you are trying to update with. Trigger.old will hold the old value. When you say old value, you have a function called prior value, which you can make use of while writing your validation rules or forma fields. There is something called as prior value. What will prior value give you? Prior value will give you the old value that a field is holding. In the same way, trigger.old will give you the old version of the record from which you are trying to make an update. Same for after update. Before update and after update will be exactly same. When we say before delete, there is nothing new coming into the system. Only the existing record is being wiped off, due to which we have trigger.old and old map. When you say triggered after undelete, something new is coming into the system. So due to which we have trigger.new and new map. Now you might be feeling that, okay, this is kind of confusing for me. If I by heart, then yes, I will be able to understand. But is there a way I will be able to relate to, or I will be able to tell immediately? Means I can tell you one thing. If there is something new coming to the system, be it a record, be it a value for a field, if there is something new coming into the system, trigger.new is available. If there is something new coming into the system, trigger.new is available. Okay, a new record is coming, fine. Before insert, after insert, you have trigger.new and trigger.new. A field value is getting updated, which means a new value is coming. Okay, before update, after update. If you say trigger.new is available. After undelete, which means a new record. It could be not a brand new record, but still something new is coming into the object container from the recycle bin. So again, trigger.new is coming. Okay, when should I use old? Something is going away from your system. It could be a record or it could be a value. When you are inserting something, are you actually losing anything from your system? No, you're not losing anything. But when you're trying to update, you're losing the old value. Okay, you're losing something. So trigger.old is available. When you're deleting, you're losing a record, due to which old is available. So when you're getting something new, trigger.new will be available. When you're losing something, trigger.old will be available. So this is how maybe you will be able to relate to, in order to understand which context variable has to be used based on the event that is happening on a specific record. Okay, so this is something which we have covered in our previous session. Now let's go into the examples to understand this in a much better way. As I said, that triggers can be created in multiple ways. One, you can go to developer console. I'll just show you the part. So click on the name, whatever you see over here, and then you have something called as developer console. Open developer console, come to file, click on new, and then choose Apex trigger. This is one way. Or what you can also do is, if your requirement is to write a trigger on a specific object, let's say account, just type accounts here, and when you come here, you can see something called as triggers. Just click on triggers and then click on new. So anything will just do the same. It is more like the place from where you are actually trying to create. So these are the two ways for you to create a trigger inside Salesforce. If you are using some external tool, then the process could be different. But when you're trying to do entirely inside Salesforce, these are the two ways that we have as a provision. Okay, now let's look into some examples. As part of our last session, we have covered, I think, almost till 6 examples we have covered. Now let's understand the 7th example. Let's start with the 7th example. Create a field by name record ID on contact, and this should hold ID of the record. Okay. So now let us first try to understand this particular part. Create a field by name record ID on contact. Okay, let's do it first. So I'm going to contact here, going to fields, clicking on new. So I'm choosing data type as text here, field type as text here, because I know that it is alphanumeric. So I'm choosing record ID. I'm specifying length as 18 because I know that length will not exceed more than that. Clicking on next, making it visible for everyone. Clicking on next, save. Okay, so we completed the first part. Then what is the second part? This should hold the ID of the record. This should hold ID of the record. Now I know that ID of a record will not change. No matter what kind of operation you perform, the ID will not be changed. Once created, ID will be generated, but ID will never change again. So due to which I don't really have to worry about the events. I just know that this will happen only at the time of insertion. So I know that insert is my event. But when I say insert, there are again two events under insert. What are they? Before insert and after insert. Okay, now which one do I have to choose over here? I know that if I choose before insert, it will be easy for me, because if you refer to the diagram that we made use of last time, we understood that before insert makes much sense. But do we have ID in the before context? In the before insert, do we have ID? No, we do not have, because ID will be generated only after a record is saved. We need to have the record to be saved for the ID to get generated. I will just quickly show that image. So I'm not writing all other components, only few components I'm writing. So this is how it will work. So just assume that you're trying to push a ball from here to here. That's it. Now, what do we want to do here? We wanted to stamp the ID field on the record into some other field. We have one custom field created, and that custom field should hold ID of this record. Now, how should we do it? Yes, we know that if we do it over here, it will be much easy for us rather than doing it over here. But unfortunately, as we are dealing with ID will be available only after you save the record. Without saving the record, ID will not be generated for us. So now the only option left for us is after triggers, because the requirement is so clear that we have to make use of ID, and whenever you are dealing with ID will be generated only after saving the record, due to which I'm going for after. Now we know that we have to use insert, but before insert or after insert means our scenario demands to make use of after insert. Okay, now fine. Let us go and try to create a trigger on the contact object. So creating file new trigger. Populate ID is the name that I'm trying to give, and object name is contact. So I'm choosing contact. Submit. Now I know that I have to make use of the event after insert. Okay, for after insert, what is the context variable that is available for me? I have two context variables that are available. I know that something new is coming. When new is coming, yes, trigger.new will be by default available. When am I trying to deal with a record? I'm trying to deal with a record after insertion. So due to which trigger.new map is also available for me, but I will make use of trigger.new so that it will be easy for me to iterate. Okay, fine. Let us do that. So for contact obj_con and then trigger.new. So I just wrote a for loop to iterate the records that are being inserted. I know that my trigger fires only at the time of insertion, and for this specific event, this is the context variable that suits best. Now this context variable is holding a list of records, due to which I'm trying to iterate through all those records for doing my job. Okay, fine. Then what should we do now? What do we have to do here? We have to populate this field. Okay, let us do that. Obj_con dot so and so is equal to obj_con dot id. That's it. This is what we have to do now. So what did we try to do? We are just trying to iterate through the records that are being inserted, and for all the records that are being inserted, we are just populating this field with the record id. This is what we did. Now let us see if this will work or it will throw an error. So I will just try to give some random names here, test trigger, and I'm clicking on save. If you see here, this did not allow me to save. It is actually throwing me an error. If you see, what is it telling me? It is telling me that system.final exception record is read only. It is telling me that system.final exception record is read only. Why is the record read only? When we try to do something in before, it allowed us absolutely fine. It did not throw us any error at all. But now why is it throwing us an error? It should not throw us, because when I say before insert, it never throws an error. We completed all the examples in the earlier session for all this, and it never threw an error stating that the record is read only. We were so successfully able to manipulate the fields, but now we are getting an error stating that record is read only. At this point of time, we have to understand one point, that once a record is saved, this record is read only for you. Once a record gets saved, that will become read only for you. Okay, then how will I be able to manipulate it? You will be able to manipulate it by not using trigger.new. Then how should I do it? If I do not make use of trigger.new, then how should I do it? Means either query for that specific record which you want to modify, query for it. When you're querying, it's obviously your variable holding some other record. You're not leveraging trigger.new at all. You're querying for it. Or what you can do is, we know how to do DML in a better way. By making use of ID. We know the ID of the record, and let us try to do the DML. So how can we do that? Now we wanted to do DML on a contact record. Okay, fine. So contact con is equal to new contact. Con.id is equal to obj_con.id. So I'm just explaining the line again. This is very, very important, and this you will be using all the time. So what am I trying to do here? I know that trigger.new is read only here. Once a record is saved, whatever context variables you're trying to make use of in after triggers are read only for you. You cannot make any manipulations to trigger.new. Trigger.new is a more like a read only document file for you. But what are we trying to do now? We know that it is a read only file. What are we trying to do? We are opening that file, we are copying that content, and we are putting it into a new document, and then we are doing our manipulation. In the same way, what are we trying to do? We know that trigger.new is read only, due to which we are not making any manipulations to either trigger.new or to objcon. Instead, what are we trying to do? We are trying to create our own specific instance. If you see here, this has nothing to do with trigger.new or objcon. We created our own instance, and then we know how to do DML on a record. We know that. How are we trying to do the record? First, we have to tell to the system that this is the record that I am trying to update. How are you telling to the system? What is the field that can help you to tell the system that this is the record that has to be updated? Means ID. Okay, fine. Now we know that if you tell to the system that this is a record that has to be updated, system can do it for you. But how will you tell that this is a record? By making use of ID. Do you have ID with you? Yes, I have ID with you. What is the ID? ID of the iterating record is the record for which I'm trying to do the update. Okay, what is the update that you're trying to perform? I'm trying to do this. Now what we will be doing is, now I will just say obj con here. I will just repeat whatever I did here. What did I try to do? I created a new instance, and to this instance I am trying to tell to the system that okay, I know the ID. So any record that is having this ID should get updated. What update should happen? This field should get updated with the value whatever I'm trying to give here. I am using objcon, I'm using the values of objcon, but I am not manipulating them, and then I am trying to do a update here. So this is what we did here. Now let us see if this will work or not. Now when I click on save, yes, record got successfully saved, and I also see that even record ID field got stamped with a proper value. Now let us understand one more thing here. Okay, fine, this looks good. So we just created a new instance because we understood that trigger.new is kind of read only, which means I cannot make any manipulations to trigger.new. So we have created a new instance. Under this new instance, we have populated all the fields, and then we did an update. But will this work if I insert 10,000 records at once, or will this work if I insert 200 records at once? It will break. Why will it break? Because we have a governor limit stating that in one transaction you cannot perform more than 150 DML operations. But here you are doing DML operation inside a for loop, which is not at all considered to be good. If you try to load 200 records, this statement will get executed 200 times, but you are allowed to make only 150 times. Then what should we do? Means we need to move this outside the for loop. But if you move it outside the for loop, then this won't work again, because you're trying to do everything over here and con is available only inside the for loop. Then what should we do? We have to make use of again one collection variable here. So lst con is equal to new list of contact, and then to this list let us add the instance that whatever we are trying to make use of, and then outside we are trying to do the update. What did we try to do now? We just try to avoid a DML inside a for loop. How are we trying to avoid? By making use of collection variable. Now we know the records that are to be updated. So whatever record has to be updated, we just took that specific record, kept into one DML, and then we did the update. Now you might be wondering, why do I have to write a DML statement in the after context, and why do I not have to write the DML in the before insert context? To relate to, let us take a basic generic example. There is a Word document, you're typing something. There is a Word document, you're typing something. Okay, you're just typing something. Whatever you want to type, you're typing something. Okay, you just typed something. You have not saved it yet. Okay, some other person came. He was reviewing and he was making some changes. Some other person came and he was making your changes. He made some changes, and you both decided that exactly at 10:30 a.m. we will save the record. Exactly at 10:30 a.m. we will save the record. So at 10 o'clock you made some changes. At 10:15 your friend made some changes on top of yours. Exactly at 10:30 record got saved. Now when the record got saved, the document is holding your changes and also your friend's changes. Did your friend save it explicitly or you saved it explicitly? No. because you are aware that at 10:30 your document will get saved automatically. In the same way, in before context, you know that record is getting saved. So before saving of the record itself, you are putting all your changes. Before saving of the record itself, you are putting all your changes, due to which you don't have to explicitly write any DML operation. Now let us speak about after. Okay, now for the same Word document, it has been saved now. Now same Word document have been saved. I'm just trying to save it somewhere. Okay, it has been saved now. Once a record is saved, if you make some changes and if you close the file, these changes will be gone. Now for these changes to be present, what do you have to do? Though this is a saved document, after saving the record, whatever changes you are trying to make, whatever changes you did, if they have to be present in the document, you have to resave it again. Only if you try to perform save operation, these two lines will be retained, else these two will be gone. Now look at it in the same way. Record has been saved. Once a record is saved, you are trying to make some changes again on top of it, due to which you have to save it. But whereas if it is before, you don't have to save it because the record is not saved yet. So whatever changes you are trying to make, everything will be saved at once. But once a record is saved, then if you feel like you have to make some other changes, then you have to ensure that you are specifying the DML statement. Only then the system will be able to do the corresponding update. Else system will not do. If you do not write this line, then there won't be any change that happens. But if you write this line, only then the system will be doing it. But does it mean that I have to do this in before context also? No, you don't have to do it in before context. Why do you not have to do it in before context? Because I am trying to perform some manipulations before the record is saved. So when the record is saved, when the record is getting saved, at that point of time, my record is already holding the changes that I am trying to perform, due to which I am not explicitly telling to the system to save it. But whereas when I go for after, as I'm dealing with a record that got already saved, I have to explicitly bring it up. I have to explicitly tell to the system that okay, save this record, due to which it is much needed that you have to specify a DML when you are making use of after, and you don't have to specify a DML when you are using before. Now you can ask me, okay, fine, we are using this. Now what about this being read only? Very blind rule. If it is after, trigger context variables are read only. If it is before, they are available for you to edit. Because once a record is saved, then that's how it works. So this is more like an example for us to understand how to write code whenever we are going for after insert context. Because when we are going for after, the way or the approach that we are following is entirely different with the way how we are doing it in before. What are the differences? In after, trigger.new is read only, but in before, the trigger context variables are not read only. You can directly make manipulations to them. You can just say this is the field, this is the value, system will work fine for you. But when it is after, no, it will not work. Then how do we have to do? You have to create a new instance, and then you have to specify a ID, and then do your manipulations. Okay, fine. Is there any other difference? Yes, there is one more difference. In before context, you don't have to explicitly write any DML statement. But in after context, you have to write a DML statement, because you're dealing with a record that got already saved. As you're dealing with a record that got already saved, you have to perform your save operation again, due to which a DML is needed. This is how you will be writing a trigger in the after context. So due to which we have to understand, or we have to keep ourselves aware on the context, that if at all possible, always go for before. If it is something which cannot be achieved in before, only then go for after. Okay, why? The reason is so clear now. You have to write a DML. You have to create a new instance. Trigger.new is read only for you. Then why do you have to choose a complex route? Why do you have to occupy so much of system resources when it can be done so easily in before? In before, you don't have to do anything. Just use the context variable, make the necessary manipulation, and you are done. But whereas in after, that is not the case. You cannot use trigger.new directly because it is read only. You have to create an instance, and you cannot make changes without doing a DML operation. You have to explicitly write a DML operation. So it is now clear for us that after is not something which is kind of straightforward or easy when compared with before. But does it mean that I have to use before all the time? No, there could be some instances which cannot be achieved by using before. This is one such example. You will not have ID in the before insert. For making use of ID, you have to obviously go for after only. When you go for after, the things that we have to keep in mind are The variables, whatever we have seen for trigger context variables, the trigger context variables, whatever we have seen till now, there are few more which I'll be covering, but till now the four: trigger.new map, trigger.old map, these four are completely read only for you when you're writing your trigger in the after context. As they are read only, we are creating a new instance, making use of the ID, and then performing the necessary update. It could be update or delete or any other DML event, but you have to explicitly call the event that you are trying to perform, else the system will not be doing it. This is how after works. We will see few more examples in order to understand it in a better way. Then opportunity stage name to be appended to its associated account description field. Okay, we have a field called stage name on opportunity, and we have a field called description on account. Now what is the requirement telling? Requirement is telling that opportunity stage name, whatever opportunity stage name we are having, that should be appended. Appended means whatever account is holding, at the end we have to append it. We should not override the value, or we should not replace the value that an account is holding. We should append to it. At the end we have to add this opportunity stage name to be appended to its accounts associated description field. Okay, fine. This requirement is kind of vague, but for our understanding I took this example. This will help us to understand how to make use of events. Now there is an account by name, let's say SF training. This is the name of it, and we have a description stating that 100 days. Now the requirement is for this account, let's say we have created an opportunity by name OPP1, and for this we have the stage name as prospecting. Then what should happen? The moment you save this record, what should happen? The description of account should be like this: prospecting, because we have to append it. Okay, now what we will do is, for the same opportunity we will change the stage name from prospecting to qualification. We will change the stage name from prospecting to qualification. Then my description on account should be like this. Now if you change the stage name to close one, you're trying to change the stage name to close one, then your description should be like this. So what are we trying to do here? Whatever value the account description is holding, we are just trying to append with the stage name whatever we have for the opportunity, whatever we have on the opportunity. Now let us break this into multiple steps to understand the events in a better way. First thing, when you make something on opportunity, corresponding change should be reflecting on the account. So where am I actually making the change? I'm making my change on the opportunity. So I mean, whenever change happens on the opportunity, something should happen. So the source is opportunity here. So the trigger should be written on object opportunity. Trigger should be on opportunity. Reason being, whenever you insert an opportunity record, or whenever you change the stage name of an opportunity record, account is getting updated. So opportunity is the object that should be your source. Whenever you try to perform any DML on opportunity, then some trigger should fire, and the trigger should update its parent account. Okay, so trigger is opportunity. Now let us understand the events here. Let us first understand the DML events, then we will go for trigger events. Okay, we know that whenever I change the stage name, obviously the account should get updated. So I know that update should be present here. Then is insert also needed? Yes, insert is also needed, because at the time of account insertion, there won't be any opportunities at all. After account insertion, you are inserting one more opportunity, and the moment you insert an opportunity, description has to get updated. So due to which I have to use insert and also update. Okay, fine. I'm not taking delete for now. For delete, we have other examples. So insert and update are the events that we are taking into consideration. Now, what should be the trigger event? Now, these are DML events. Now, should I go for before or should I go for after? Any idea? I want to see few responses. So, should I go for before or should I go for after? After. Okay, fine. Yes, this is right that we have to go for after. Now I will tell you the reason why we should go for after and why not before. This can be done in before as well. Let me tell you, this can be done in before as well. It is not that this cannot be done in before, it can be done in before as well. Now why should I go for after, even though this can be done in before? Let us understand that point now. So we know that event centric components exist for every object. When I say event centric, validation rules, workflow rules, process builders, so we have all of them for every object. You have validation rules on account, you can have workflow rules on account, you can have process builders on account, and same applies for opportunity also. Now you have your opportunity. In this opportunity, as per the order of execution, first system validation rule will get executed, and then before triggers will get executed. Okay, fine. Now let us assume that you have written the logic of updating account in a before trigger. So in the before trigger, you are trying to do some DML on account. The moment you try to do DML on account, then the event centric components belonging to account object will get executed. So what event centric? Again, order of execution, SVR, before triggers, and then CVR. CVR means custom validation rules, SVR means standard validation rules. Custom validation rules after triggers, if at all there are workflow rules or process builders, even they will get executed. Then I mean here saving will happen, and then here some other operations will happen, and then again it will come to the opportunity. All these related to account got done. Now we are coming over here, and then we are having custom validation rules over here after triggers. This save will happen after custom validation rules, not after triggers. This is wrong. Yeah. And then this is how system will actually perform, because you're trying to perform DML on account. As you're trying to do DML on account, event centric components related to this object should get executed automatically. This is that is so obvious. So this is how system is happening. Now let us assume that you are trying to save an opportunity by giving some erroneous data. You're trying to save an opportunity by giving some erroneous data, which means there is a validation rule which will block the record from getting saved. Okay, fine. We have something in place like that. You try to insert an opportunity. System validation rules will not throw an error because your logic is so conditional, and so you went for a custom validation rule. Before triggers got executed, then account insertion happened. System validation rules got executed. Before triggers, custom validation rules save. After triggers, workflows. Fine, it came till here. Then it went to custom validation rule, and then system realized that no, this opportunity is holding erroneous data, so I'm not gonna allow the record to get saved. As we follow atomicity, if you remember, there the entire transaction should be done or nothing should be done at all. So what will happen? Everything will be rolled back. Now lot of resources have been utilized in order to get this DML done, and it's completely waste now, because the parent record which initiated the DML itself is not holding the actual record, due to which it is never suggested to go for before triggers when you feel like doing something on the related records. Now if you see here, okay, you are trying to do some preliminary checks on the opportunity record, at least till the record is getting saved. Yes, there could be some instances where the record might be rolled back from after triggers also, but still at least there is some guarantee that my parent record is kind of holding some good data, so that my resource consumption could be avoided if it is erroneous. So that is why it is always recommended that if you have to perform something on the related records, always go for after, because wait for at least the parent record to get saved. It could not be a parent record. When I say parent record, the record that initiated the trigger, at least wait for that record to get saved, so that you can perform your corresponding actions on the related records. You can do this in before, but the drawback is there could be some chances where the opportunity record has to be rolled back as part of custom validation rule. So due to which you are just making double sure that the opportunity record is getting saved first. Once my opportunity is saved, okay, fine, then I am good. Then let me do DML on the corresponding related records. It doesn't mean that I have to do always in after. You can do it in before, but it is recommended or suggested or efficient to make use of after triggers. After triggers is the right answer, but still we need to really know the significance behind using after triggers than before triggers when we are trying to perform DML on any related record. So this is the reason why we should go for after triggers when we are trying to deal with a related record. Fine. Now, what are the events for us? The events here are after insert and then after update. So let me quickly go create a record, file, new Apex trigger, and then I will say populate account description, the name, and I will choose the S object as opportunity over here. submit. Now, what are my events here? My events are after insert and then after update. Cool. Now, let me go into this. For after insert, yes, I know trigger.new is available, and for after update is I also have trigger.new available. Perfect. I will iterate through trigger.new because trigger.new is available commonly for both of them. Okay. So for opportunity, OPP, trigger.new. Let me make this as capital, though this is not case sensitive, but still opportunity OPP trigger.new. Now, what is the requirement here? Let's read the requirement one more time. Opportunity stage name to be appended to its associated accounts description field. So, what are we trying to update here? We are trying to update account here. We are trying to update account. Account obj acc is equal to new account. Obj acc dot description. What should be present for description? We need to have opportunities description. Opp dot description. Sorry, opp dot stage name. Whatever stage name the opportunity is holding, that should be present. And then what will I do? I will just say update obj acc. But when you say like this, system will eventually throw an error. You are trying to update a record. Which record do you have to update? Specify the ID of it. Okay, fine. So obj acc dot id is equal to, where do we have the ID? We have ID on this field called account ID on opportunity. Account is a standard field due to which you have to append ID in order to make use of it. Okay. So we are just trying to update the parent record of the opportunity. Fine. Now let us see if this will work or not. Now let me try to create a new account here. Clicking on new, test, trigger, parent, and I will just give some description. 100 days of training, and I am clicking on save. I just saved my account record. I just followed the normal process. Now nothing will happen because I am not trying to do anything as part of the account trigger. I have my test trigger parent and then description as, where is the description? Yes, I have description over here, 100 days of training. Now what I will do is, for the same account, I will now create an opportunity. Let me do that. Opportunity name, test OPP1, and I will populate the mandatory field which is closed and I'm choosing prospecting and I am clicking on save now. Now let me go into the account record quickly to verify what actually happened onto this account record. Now I say the description is prospecting. Yes, description should be prospecting. Description should be holding prospecting, but it overrode it. My requirement is not to override it. My requirement is to append it. If I say stage name as prospecting, what should happen? It should be 100 days prospecting, but now it is just holding prospecting, which is completely incorrect. No, this is not what we want. So then we have to understand that we missed something over here. What did we miss? You need to understand that you need to say obj acc dot description plus opp dot stage name. We have to append with the existing value. We need to take existing value into consideration and then we have to append to it. Only then it will work. Okay, fine. Now let us see it will actually work or not. Now I'm coming to the opportunity. As my trigger also works on after update, I'm just trying to make an update over here to say qualification, clicking on OK, and then I'm clicking on save. Now I am coming to the account record. Now let me reload the page to see if it is actually doing it or not. It is telling me null and qualification. It should tell me prospecting and qualification. Okay, I understand 100 days has anyways gone. Now prospecting is present. It should tell me prospecting and qualification, right? Why is it telling me null and qualification? This is incorrect. I told to append to the existing value, but why is it still not doing? Why is it holding null? Means at this point of time, we need to understand that trigger.new will give you details of just about the record that got inserted or updated, but it will not provide you any details of any other record. You are trying to use description on the account. How will trigger.new give you the information, or how will the trigger return opportunity will give you the information of its associated account description? System will not give you that. You have to make use of some other thing in order to know what is the system currently holding. Get the value, then append whatever you want to do it. Get the value. If you do not get it, system cannot do it, because trigger.new can give you information only about the opportunity record that got either inserted or updated, but it cannot give you information of any other record. Okay, fine. So the system is not able to get me the information of description, due to which it is telling me that it is null. And for null, I am trying to append opp.stageName. Yes, opp is available. System is having control on trigger.new. System is able to give me information about trigger.new, due to which opp.stageName is available for me. Obj.acc.description is not available for me. Now, how can I get obj.acc.description? Means there is no other way. We have to write a query now. Okay, fine. Let us write a SQL query. Now, what I want to do is, we know that if you are trying to do an update, you can just write a SQL query and also do the update. You don't have to do it. Now, what I will do is account obj.acc is equal to select id comma description from account, where id is equal to opp.account id, opp.account id. Now, let me tell you, we understood till this part, select id from account, where id is also something which is clear. But what is this colon here? Why did you add a colon over here? I understand that you wanted to make use of opp.account id, because that is where id of the account is stored. So you have written opp.account id. But why is this colon here? This is something which we have not seen in our SQL session. Why is this colon? Means always remember that when you are writing a SQL query, there should either be a keyword or a field name or an object name. That's it. Or a value that you wanted to use, which is enclosed in single quotes, or based on the data you have to give. But if you see here, select is a keyword, id, description or fields, from is a keyword, account is an object name, where is a keyword, id is a field. Then what is opp.account id? Is this a value? No, it is not a value, but it is a variable holding some value. Op.account id is a variable, opp is a variable, and in this opp I have something called as account id. So this is a variable that is holding some value. Now remember that if you are trying to make use of variables inside your SQL query, you have to tell to the system that this is a variable. As this is a variable, you have to look into the value that this variable is holding. So how are you telling to the system that it is neither a keyword nor a field name, but a variable? As it is a variable, you have to go deep and look into the value inside it. Means by specifying a colon. If you specify a colon, only then the system will understand that this is a variable which is holding a value inside it. If you do not specify a variable, system will understand that okay, this is a value. But no, this is not the value. There is no such record with id as opp.account id. id will never be something like this. So what are we trying to tell? opp.account id is not the value. opp.account id is a variable, and that variable is holding a value. Use that value. So how can we effectively communicate to the system? Means system told us that if you put a colon, fine, I will understand that it is a variable. If it is a variable, I will not use of the variable name. I will go into the variable and see what is the value present in that variable, and I will use that value in order to execute this SQL query. So what did I just do here? I try to write a SQL query to get me id and then the description. Now obj.description is available for me, and to this obj.description I am trying to append my stage name, and I am trying to do the update here. Now let us see if this will work or not. Now to make it clear, okay, fine. We currently have the value as null qualification. Remember that the current value is null qualification. Now I am going to my opportunity and changing the stage from qualification to needs analysis, and I am clicking on save. Now I am coming to my account and I am trying to reload the page now. Now if I see, yes, null qualification needs analysis. Yes, appending happened perfectly. This works exactly fine for me. But if I look into my trigger, no, it is not perfect. Execution is perfect, output is perfect, but implementation is not perfect. Reason, I have my DML written inside the for loop, which is completely incorrect. So what should I do? How can I avoid DML inside a for loop? Make use of a collection variable. You are trying to update accounts. So let's say lstacc is equal to new list of account. To this lstacc, add the objacc, and outside the for loop, do the DML. Fine. Now there is no DML written inside a for loop. Okay, lstacc. We are updating the list here. Now outside the for loop, you have written your DML statement, which is fine now. But now let us understand one more point. We also have one limitation on SQL queries. There should not be more than 100 SQL queries. This is important for us. Yes, we got rid of DMLs. We understood that list collection variable can be used here in order to get rid of the DML. inside for loop. Yes, I can create one list variable. Into this list I can add the corresponding record and I can do the DML outside. Then what about SQL query? How can I get rid of a SQL query? I am trying to look at the iterating record only. My complete requirement is on iterating record only. Now, how can I get rid of a SQL query without writing it inside for loop? This is very, very important concept. I want you to pay full attention now. Now, try to understand that again you have to make use of collections only. Again, you have to make use of collections even to get rid of a SQL query written inside a for loop. Now, let us break this into multiple steps. What do we need? Why are we trying to write a SQL query inside for loop? Because we need the iterating opportunities account ID. Okay, fine. If you give me the account ID, I will give you the record. Is that fine for you? Yes, it is fine for me. But is there any collection variable that will do the job for us? If you give me the ID, I will give you the record. Is there any collection variable of that sort? Yes, there is one collection variable which is map. If you give me something, I will give you something in return. The only collection variable that does the job for me is map. So to this map, if you give the account ID, it will give you the account record. So let us create one map of ID comma account. Map ACC is equal to new map of ID comma account. So what will this map do? This map, if you give ID to it, it will give you the account record to you. If you give ID, it will give you the account record. Okay, fine. Now, how do I have to add entries into the map? Yes, I understood. Map will help me. If you give me the ID, it will give you the record. But how can I add entries into the map means? Now, first let us understand. Okay. Do you want this map to hold all the account records present in your system? Or do you want to hold only some specific account records? No, I don't want all. I want only some specific. Okay, what is the criteria? I want the account record to be entries in this map only for those which are associated with the opportunities that are being inserted. Now, what I'm trying to tell here is there could be multiple account records in my system by name like this: SF training, DM training, SFDC training, and then I have something like this, LWC training. Now, when you are trying to insert OPP1 for SF training, you just need details of this account. You don't need details of these three accounts. You want the details of the account record for which an opportunity is being inserted. You just want details of only this specific account. You don't need to get details of all the accounts that are present in the system. So to this map, you will be just giving entries of the accounts for which opportunity is being inserted or updated. Okay, fine. Now we understood that we need to have one map. To this map, if you give me the ID, that map will give you the record. And for this map, we want to add now entries now. When we speak about adding entries, we don't want to add all the account records present in our system. We want to add some specific accounts. What are those some specific accounts? The accounts for which we are trying to add opportunity. Okay, fine. Then how can I identify them? You can identify them because you have trigger.new. By iterating through trigger.new, you can get all the account IDs. By iterating through trigger.new, you can get all the account IDs. How can I get all the account IDs? Create one set now. Set of ID. Set ACC IDs is equal to new set of ID. Now into this set, add all the opportunity accounts. OPP.account ID. Now you have all the account IDs with you. Now you can ask me, why did you create a set and why not a list? Yes, I can create a list obviously, but what is the advantage of set over list? Set will not hold duplicates. Why do you want to have duplicates? You can insert 3 opportunities at once and all those 3 might be belonging to same account. So why do you want to have duplicates? I don't want to have any duplicates. As I'm not interested in having duplicates, I am just trying to create one set here. You people must be familiar with what list is all about, what map is all about, what set is all about. If you're not familiar, then I recommend you to go through the training session of collections one more time in order to make yourself familiar. These 3 are very, very important, while writing a trigger. Now, I made use of set to hold the account IDs. By using this set, now I will prepare the map. By using this set, I will prepare the map. Now, what I will do is, I will write a SQL query now. List of account, LSTACC, or let me say list account details is equal to, now I will write a SQL query. Select ID, comma, description from account where ID in, I'm using an in operator here. Why am I using an in operator? because I know that set ACC IDs is holding multiple values. When you wanted to get the records that are holding multiple values on the same field, always make use of in operator. So what did I just try to do here? We are trying to get all the account records of the account IDs that are present on the opportunity that is being either inserted or updated. So this is what we just try to do now. Okay, fine, we have the list now, we have the set now. Now how are we trying to add entries into the map? Okay, fine. Now what I will do is I will say for account obj acc lst account details, then to this map I will say dot put objacc.id comma objacc. Can, yeah. Now if you see, what did I just try to perform? I am just trying to add entries into the map. I know that this map should hold id as the key and record as the value. That is what I'm just trying to do here. If you see, I wrote my records, I wrote a SQL query that will give me the records. I have this in this variable. I am trying to iterate this variable and then I am trying to put a map here. So map objacc.id and then objacc. Let me repeat what I just did. First, I want to have one map here so that that map can give me the account record if I give the account ID. Okay. Now, do you want this map to hold all the account records in your system? Means no, I do not want this map to hold all the account records. I want this map to hold only specific account records. Okay. What are those specific account records? Those specific account records are those accounts for which an opportunity is being either inserted or updated. Okay, fine. First, identify those specific accounts. How are we identifying? By iterating through trigger.new, capturing the account ID, adding it into one collection variable. Then what are we trying to do? With the IDs, whatever we have, we brought all those records. We got all those records, but our requirement is not to get all those records. Our requirement is to keep those records inside a map. How did we try to do it? We iterated through the list and then we kept it. We know that for map, put is the operator that has to be, put is the method that has to be used here. Now this is kind of confusing. I made use of one list here to write a SQL query and then I wrote again one more map. I'm iterating through this. This is too much for me. I understand the concept of capturing the account IDs. I understood that you wrote a SQL query, but this I'm not really convinced. Why should I actually iterate through this list just for the sake of preparing a map? Is there a shortcut for me? Means yes, there is a shortcut. Just try to create this map and here you can write your SQL query. This is just same as this. You don't have to do anything now. What are we trying to do here? We are just trying to convert a list into a map. If you specify the list variable over here, system can automatically convert it into a map now. So we captured the account IDs. With the account IDs captured, we are getting a list and that list is being converted into a map now. This is what we did. I'm just repeating the process again. We are iterating through trigger.new, captured the account IDs. With the account IDs captured, we brought a list. That list is converted into a map now. Now see the magic. Account objacc is equal to opp.account id, which is absolutely fine. Now how will I get objacc.description? What I will do at this point of time is I have this map. Into this map I can use a get operator. Yes, we have get operator. To this, what will I give? I will say obb.account id. Now if I do this, it will give me the entire record. Do I want the entire record? No, I don't want the entire record. I just want the description. So I will say dot description. Or if you feel that it is too much to understand, then what you can also do is even this will also work for you. So objacc is holding the account record. If you see here, objacc is holding the account record. To this map, if you give the id, it will give you the record. Where are you storing that record? In objacc. Then what are you trying to do? Objacc.description is equal to objacc.description plus opp.stage name. Then we are trying to save this. So I'm just repeating. I know this topic is kind of complex, but I want you to be completely aware of it. What are we trying to do now? First, we try to identify the account IDs. We got the account IDs. With the account IDs, we have prepared one map. We directly prepared a map. What will this map do? If you give me the account ID, I will give you the account record. Then what are we trying to do? Inside the for loop, we are using the map rather than having this SQL query inside the for loop. We created a map, and this map is actually helping us to do the job. This map is actually helping us to do the job. How is it trying to do? This is how we are actually trying to do. Obj ACC, we have created one account variable, and to this account variable, we are using this map. To this map, we are giving the account ID of the iterating record, and then this Obj ACC is getting updated. Now let us see if this is working fine or not. There are still many scenarios inside it. This is not done yet. This might look that this is done, but still it is not done yet. Okay, now I am coming. Let me blank it out completely so that we can observe it very clearly. And what I will also do is I will also add some spaces here so that we can understand that something happened. I'm just adding a space. So to the description, it is completely blank. Okay, description is blank now. Now I'm going to the opportunity and changing the stage name. Before I do that, I will just say 100 days just for our testing. 100 days, clicking on save. Now I am trying to make this qualification, clicking on save. Now what will happen? This should show me the value as 100 days with a space and then qualification. Let me reload the page. Yes, 100 days qualification, absolutely fine. Now let me do again. From qualification to value proposition, click on save. Now let me reload the page. 100 days qualification value proposition, again fine. Okay, nice. Now let us understand one more point. I came to the opportunity. I am not updating the stage. I am clicking on edit. I am updating my type and I am clicking on save now. I updated my type. Now let me come to the account and let me click on reload. I see value proposition came again. Okay, let me go and modify my close date. Click on save. Again value proposition got appended. Now let me just click on edit and click on save. I will not do anything. I'll just click on save. Remember that value proposition is present thrice. Now I'm reloading the page. Now it came 4 times. This is completely incorrect. No, this cannot be accepted. Why is the opportunity stage name always getting appended to my description field? It should happen only when the stage name is changed. Why is it happening all the time? Means now look into our code. We are telling that whenever an update happens, no matter what kind of update it is, whenever an insert happens or whenever an update happens, immediately we are just trying to update the account. Immediately, whatever value the account is holding, to that value we are appending the stage name. Immediately we are not even checking what has been changed. This is incorrect. So now what should we do? We have to perform this operation if and only if the stage name and opportunity is modified. Only when stage name is modified, this appending should happen, else it should not happen. Okay, now how can we identify if a field value is changed or not? In workflows, I have something called as is changed. In validation rule, I can make use of something called as is changed. But is there something available for me in Apex? Means no. There is no such thing called is changed for us in order to use it in Apex. Then what is the value? Now, if you think logically, why do we need these many context variables? Old and old map. The reason why we need them is because you cannot observe if a field value got changed or not. We have these. Okay, how are these going to help me? You can compare the old value and then the new value and then decide if a field value got changed or not. Rather than using is change directly, what are we trying to do? We are using prior value versus current value. If prior value and current value are not equal, it means that it got changed. Now I have a variable that holds the old value. I have a variable that holds the new value. If I make comparison on these both, that will give me enough information to understand if the value got changed or not. That is what we will do now. Okay, fine. Now by using old, I will get the old value. But what is the process? You are iterating through trigger.new. Now I wanted to know what is the old value of this specific iterating record. Now I wanted to know the value of this specific iterating record. Now how can I do that? Fine. If I give you the ID, you give me the record. From that record, you identify the old value. Okay. If I give you the ID, you will give me the old record. From that record, I can know the value. What is the collection variable which is doing something similar? Means old map. If you give the ID, it will give you the record, and that record will hold the old values. Okay, fine, absolutely fine. If I give the ID, it will give me the record, and that will hold the old values. Okay, so what I will do now is I will create one opportunity instance. Opportunity old OPP is equal to trigger dot old map dot get opp.id. What am I trying to do now? To this trigger dot old map, I am trying to give the opportunity ID. Now, what will this old OPP hold? This old OPP will hold the old values of my opportunity. This old OPP will hold the old value of this OPP opportunity. Now, I can do comparison of old OPP versus OPP and then decide if the value got changed or not. Now, how will I do that? If old OPP dot stage name not equal to OPP dot stage name. This is how old map is being used. Now I am putting this inside my if block. So what did I do here? I know that I am making use of trigger.new. I am iterating through trigger.new. Okay, fine. That is good. Then what are we trying to do? Then we are trying to make use of opp.id. Okay, you are using opp.id. If you give opp.id to this old map, what will it give you? It will give you the opportunity old record. It will give you the opportunity record with old values. That is what old is all about. It will give you the opportunity record with old values. Old values are nothing but prior values. Okay, fine. Now old OPP is also a record. OPP is also a record. What is OPP holding? OPP is holding the user entered new values. Old OPP is holding the old values of the record. Then what are we trying to do now? We are just trying to compare if the stage name got changed or not. We are just trying to say if old OPP dot stage name not equal to OPP dot stage name. So if the stage name got changed, only then do this job, else do not do this job. So this is how you are making use of trigger dot old map. This is how you are making use of trigger dot old map. Now let us see if this will work fine or not. Now what I will do is I will just remove everything. I will just say value proposition and nothing else. Clicking on OK and then clicking on save. 100 days qualification value proposition. Now I am coming here and I am changing the value from value proposition ID decision makers and clicking on save. Now let me see. Yes, this worked fine. Now I will go to the opportunity record and I will make some other change now. I will make some other change and I will click on save. Now I am reloading the page. Yes, this is not update. Okay, let me make some other change onto the opportunity now. Value proposition ID decision makers, reloading the page. Value proposition ID decision makers. Yes, this worked perfectly fine for me because I am telling to the system to look only if the stage name is changed, else do not look. But now the scenario is not done yet. I will tell you one more scenario now. To this account, let me delete this opportunity completely to avoid confusion. I'm deleting this opportunity and I'm clearing out the value and I'm clicking on save. Now if I come down, I see no opportunities. Now let me create a new opportunity. I'm saying test OPP, close it, I'm choosing something, stage I'm giving something and I'm clicking on save. Now if you see, I got an error. What is this error? System.null pointer exception, attempt to dereference a null object. This is strange. It worked earlier for us. When we used the same, it worked earlier for us, but now it stopped working. What mistake did we do? We just told to the system that if a field value is changed, only then do the job, else do not do it. But why did it work earlier? Why did it work earlier and why did it not work now? Now we have to understand one point. Your trigger is firing in after context, after insert, and your trigger is also firing in after update. We just try to insert a record now. Okay, you are trying to insert. So after insert is the event. Your trigger came. Your trigger executed this logic, this logic, this logic, this logic. Your trigger executed this, and then it came to line number 11. If you see, it is telling you that it's line number 11. It came to line number 11. In this line number 11, what is it looking at? It is looking at trigger.old map. Let me tell you, trigger.old map is not available in after insert. As trigger.old map is not available in after insert, Are you stopping? No, you're telling though it is null, you are still going too deep into the null. So you are referring to something which is null, and so you are getting this error called attempt to dereference a null object. Okay, now what should I do? I want each change to be present, but if I say each change, it is not working for insert. If I remove this, all the time it is happening. Now what should I do means, we have to understand few more context variables. What are they? Like how we have trigger.new, new map, old and old map, we also have few more events called is insert, is update, is delete, is undelete. We have these four as well. Okay, what will these be holding? All these four of type boolean. This will become true only when you are inserting a record. Trigger.is update will be true only when you are trying to update a record. Trigger.is delete will be true only when you are trying to delete a record. Trigger.undelete will be true only when you are trying to undelete a record. Now we will make use of these variables in order to deal with our situation in a better way. So I will tell you again, what are we trying to do here? We are just trying to make use of these context variables, which will help us to understand the event that the user is currently in. Now I will show you the logic, then I will explain what I'm trying to do. I do not want this check to be present at all if at all the scenario is insertion. I do not want this check to be present at all if at all the scenario is insertion. So what I will do, if trigger dot is insert, I'm telling if trigger dot is insert or trigger dot is update, and if trigger dot is insert or trigger dot is update, and what is this old opp? This old opp is nothing but this, right? So I will just put it directly over here. Old opp is nothing but whatever I have written. So what I will do is I will just put it directly over here, and I will remove this. I'm just telling if stage name got changed, then do this. When should this happen? This should happen only at the time of update. So I'm cutting this and then I'm putting it over here. Now look at this if condition. This if condition will become true when user is trying to do some insertion or user is trying to do some update. If this becomes true, only then the system will go into this specific part, else system will not even go here. And I'm ensuring that trigger.old map is available for update. So first system will check, okay, insertion is happening. Fine, let me go ahead and blindly do it. Okay, it's not insertion. Then let me come here and let me see what is the user trying to perform. Okay, trigger dot is update. Fine, this became true. Then what should I do? Then I should check, okay, is the old stage name not equal to new stage name? Only then do it. Now let me see if this will work as expected or not. Now I'm coming to the same opportunity and I'm clicking on save. And now this worked exactly fine for me. I was able to save the opportunity successfully. Now if I see, okay, null is there and then needs analysis is there. Why is there null? Because what am I trying to do here? Obj acc dot description. Okay, stage name is there, null needs analysis. This is incorrect again. Okay, understood. Why is it null means because the current value of obj description is null. The current value, if you remember, before I made some change to this, I blanked out the description value. The blank value is considered as null here, due to which obj acc description is null, and so it thought like null plus whatever I have to do, let me do it. Now to make it clear for us, what I will do is I will delete this opportunity. I will blank out the value and I will say 100 days of training, and I'm clicking on OK, clicking on save. Now I'm coming, clicking on new opportunity again. I'm just populating something, clicking on save. Now if I go into this account and if I scroll down, I see 100 days of training with a space value proposition. Yes, this is working absolutely fine. Now if you see, number of lines are also less. Let me just explain you what are we trying to do. We know that the events are insert and then we have an update event. Then what are we trying to do? We are trying to first capture all the account IDs so that we can get its associated description. But if you give me the ID, for me to give you the record or the description, I need to have one corresponding collection variable which is of type map. Okay, fine. We have created map of ID comma account. This map will take ID as the key and account as the value. So we are trying to give a SQL query. System is quite smart enough to convert a list into a map, due to which we wrote the SQL query directly over here. To this map, if you give the account ID, it will give us the account record. Then what are we trying to do? We are iterating through the trigger.new, and then we are checking if it is insert, fine, go ahead blindly. If it is update, do not go ahead blindly. Check if the stage name got changed or not. Only if the stage name is changed, then go inside. Else do not go inside. Okay. Insert, fine, go. Update, look for another condition and then go inside. Then what are we trying to do? We are identifying the account for which we have to perform an update. How are we trying to identify? We have the account ID with us. If you give this account ID to this map, this will give you the entire record. So this gave us the entire record, and to this specific record we are appending the stage name. And then in order to avoid DML inside a for loop, we have created one list variable, and we are trying to update this list variable outside the for loop. So this is what we did here. Number of lines are actually less, but if you see here, we have taken many scenarios into consideration in order to keep our code much optimized and much efficient. Then let us look into some other scenarios. So we understood that there are 4 more context variables along with these 4. We have 4 more, and these will help us in order to make use of these variables on a conditional basis. All these 4 are of type Boolean only. Now let us take one more scenario. Post a chatter message once opportunity reaches closed one. Yes, this is a good example. Post a chatter message once opportunity reaches closed one. For those who are not aware of what chatter is, I will just tell you what chatter is all about. When you go to a record, you see something like this at the beginning. This is called chatter feed. This is just about holding some data, more like some communication. So this is what has been done on this specific record. If you want to post something, then this is what we call. Now what is the requirement telling? The requirement is telling that once an opportunity reaches closed one, there should be a chatter message. Okay, there should be a chatter message. Fine. Now let us understand this. Once an opportunity reaches closed one, so the object is opportunity. The object on which you have to write trigger is an opportunity. Then what are the events? I am going for insert, and I am also going for update. Why am I going for insert and update? Because at the time of insertion, opportunity stage can be closed one. You can directly insert an opportunity stage as closed one. So due to which insert, and then yes, you can also update it to closed one. So due to which insert and update. Now, should I go for before or should I go for after? I should always go for after, because let's assume that I'm telling to the system to post something on the chatter in the before, and then some custom validation rule came and blocked the entire transaction. Then what should happen? That is incorrect. So due to which I will go for after insert and after update. For after insert and for after update, what is the context variable that is available for me? Trigger.new is something which is available for me. So let me write a new trigger and achieve this. So file new apex trigger post to chatter. After insert and then after update. Fine. Now I know that trigger.new is available for me. So for opportunity OPP trigger.new, what is the requirement? If opportunity stage name is closed one, if OPP.stage name equal to closed one, then what should happen? Chatter message should be posted. Now how should I post something into chatter? By using apex. I will tell you, for everything you see, there is an object internally. For everything you see in Salesforce, there is an object internally. You might be feeling that these are tabs, but let me tell you, tab is also one object. You might be feeling that these are apps, but app is one object. Classes, one object. Pages, it is an object. Role, it is an object. Everything you see inside Salesforce is one object, and in the same way, all these chatters are also under one object. What is that object name? Feed item is the object name. Feed item is the object name. Okay, now you can ask me. Okay, fine. You know that feed item is the object name, so due to which you immediately typed it. Now, how will I know? Okay, fine. No one will be knowing it earlier. So we can just say that chatter object in Salesforce. And then we have to identify, go through these documents and then understand, okay, what is the corresponding thing. Or what you can see is insert chatter post in Apex. Insert chatter post in Apex. You can refer to some Salesforce documents. Many people wrote many blocks due to which they are coming up first. So if you see here, what are they trying to do? They are making use of this object called feed item. So it is so clear now. Okay, let us understand what is this feed item object. We know that feed item is the object which is speaking about chatters. Now let us go into this feed item and let us understand which field has to be populated for doing what. I'm using SOAP API because this will give me all the information needed. Feed item. If I come down, it is telling me that best comment ID. Okay, I don't need best comment ID. It is telling something called body, the body of the feed item. Okay, let us see a few more fields. Comment count, we don't need this for now. Connection ID, what is this about? When a partner network connection is tracked, okay, we are not dealing anything about that. Content data, content description, content file name, content size, content type, feed post ID. Okay, there are many things. I don't want to go too deep. I will just take this example for our understanding. I am making use of only these two fields. I'm telling about this for feed item. Only two fields are mandatory. Rest all are optional fields. What are these two fields? One, parent ID. Onto which record do you want a chatter post to be available? That is nothing but parent ID. So to this parent ID, you will be specifying the record ID for which the chatter post to be done. And second thing is body. What content do you want to be published? That's it. These are the only two fields that are needed for you to post something onto the chatter. So this is what I just wrote it. Now, what is the parent ID for me? Parent ID is nothing but opp.id. Whatever record is being iterated, if the stage name is closed one, that is what my ID is. Then what is the body? Opportunity reached closed one. Opportunity reached closed one. Then I am just trying to do the insert. But now we are familiar that we should not actually have insert DML statements inside for loop. So what will I do now? Because I have a requirement to do a DML, I am creating a list of feed item, and then lst f item is equal to new list of f feed item, and then I'm adding into my list. Outside the for loop, I'm doing this lst f item. So what did I do here? I know that, sorry. Okay, so what am I trying to do here? I am trying to insert a chatter post. For inserting a chatter post, I know that this is the logic that I have to make use of. Okay, I wrote the logic, and then rather than doing DML inside the for loop, I am doing DML inside the for loop by adding the corresponding record into a list. Now let me see if this is working fine or not. I will come here and I will mark my stage as closed one, clicking on OK. Closed one only I have given. Okay, fine. Now if you see, okay, opportunity reached closed one. This is something which is coming as part of my trigger. Opportunity reached closed one. Okay, this is nice. Now let me change my close date to some other date, and I'm clicking on save. Now again this came opportunity reached closed one. Let me click on edit and let me click on save. Now again this came opportunity reached closed one. This is incorrect. Opportunity reached closed one long back. Why is it still showing to me? Means we need to look into our trigger. If we see, we are blindly telling that if stage name is closed one, then post something onto the chatter. We are not telling that if stage name is changed only, then do it. We are blindly telling. So remember that whenever you are making use of an update, your if condition should be so concrete enough that it is not leaving any scenario and it is not getting executed for unnecessary scenarios. So always be double sure on writing your if conditions while making use of a update event in your trigger. Okay, now how can we observe if stage name got changed or not? Okay, very simple. We can use trigger.oldMap. Okay, fine. So I will say if trigger.oldMap.get opp.id and then dot stage name not equal to opp.stage name, and opp.stage name is equal to closed one, or maybe okay, fine. You might be little confused. So what I will do here now is, here I will see if trigger dot is insert, if trigger dot is insert, or trigger dot is update. But for update, I have one extra condition here. What is that condition? Old value and new value should not be same. But for insert, yes, I can find. But for update, old value and new value should not be same. For old value, I have to use trigger dot old map. So trigger dot old map dot get opp.id dot stage name not equal to opp.stage name. and then I will just put this logic inside this if block. So remember that this if should be so much familiar to you all while writing triggers. You need to make sure that this, let me tell you, whenever you're writing a trigger in after insert and after update context, I'm pretty much sure out of 10, for 7 scenarios you have to write something like this. For insert, yes, allow it, but whereas when it is update, identify if a field value got changed or not. So that is what we are doing. For insert, blindly go ahead, but whereas if it is update, then immediately check, okay, old value is not equal to new value, only then go ahead and do it. Did I miss anything? Variable does not exist stage, okay, it should be stage name. So that is what we are trying to do here. We are checking first, is the stage closed one? Okay, stage is closed one. Okay, is the user trying to do insert? Okay, no, he is trying to do an update. Okay, fine. When the user is trying to do an update, did he change the stage name? If he has changed the stage name, okay, then only do this, else do not do this. Now let us quickly test it. Now what I will do is, rather than doing this, I will clone this and I will create a new opportunity. I am testing it for insertion now. When I click on save, yes, it worked fine. Now let me modify the close date and I'm clicking on save. Okay, did not come. I did not see any chatter post now. Let me modify the type. I do not see anything now. Why? Because now my if condition is very, very concrete, stating that this logic, whatever I have written, speaking about chatter post insertion, will get executed only if I am trying to do an insertion or when I am trying to do an update, provided that the stage value is modified. So if you are not really so good in writing the code, even then it is fine, but you need to be really so confident or so sure on writing the if condition. You need to think yourself, okay, when should this logic fire or when should your logic get executed? You need to have your criteria so concrete enough. If you do not have your criteria concrete enough, then obviously the trigger will break in scenarios. It might not really break from transaction point of view, but from the user point of view or from a functionality point of view, it will break. So while writing triggers, you have to understand from the functionality point of view and also from the transaction point of view. There should not be any SQL queries or DMLs inside a for loop, or and not or and your trigger should not get executed unnecessarily. Your if conditions should be very, very concrete enough to ensure that your trigger is getting executed only when it is needed. So this is how you have to do it. I will just explain this one more time so you can remember it. What am I trying to do here? First, my condition is opportunity should be closed one. Okay, fine. If it is closed one, can I blindly insert a chatter post? No. Do it if it is insertion, or do it if it is update, provided the stage is changed now. Do the chatter post only if the stage is changed to closed one. Only at that point of time, I want something like this to happen. So due to which, this is how we wrote the logic. Something new what we have to understand here is, you are making use of corresponding context variables so that these data context variables can be used on a conditional basis. Because trigger.oldMap is null in insert context, I am making sure that trigger.oldMap is being used only in update context. How am I telling to the system? By again making use of context variables only. I have something called as isInsert, isUpdate. By making use of isInsert and isUpdate, I am making sure that I am not entering into the null pointer exception zone. So you have to make sure that your trigger is not making use of unused context variables. You are using context variables only in the corresponding event. Second thing, you are not unnecessarily consuming resources. How? By having your if conditions concretely written. 3, you are not unnecessarily doing any DMLs or SQL queries inside for loop. How? By making use of some collections. So these are the 3 points that you need to take into consideration while writing a trigger. If you understand these 3 points so clearly, then you can write any trigger. Logic writing is something which is easy, but you have to understand the if conditions and also making use of the corresponding collection variables to avoid DMLs and SQLs inside for loop. If you understand writing if conditions and how to avoid SQLs or DML inside for loop, then 70% of writing your trigger is done. Remaining 30% is just about writing the core logic. Core logic can be so easily understood. Okay, let's look into a few other scenarios. Account number cannot be updated once a record is created. Account number cannot be updated once a record is created. Okay, this is kind of straightforward with the requirements what all we have seen. So file, new, Apex trigger, update account number, and I'm choosing account here, clicking on submit. Now what is the event? Account number cannot be updated once a record is created. Okay, now I know that my object is account. What is the event? I know that my event is update. Should I go for before update or after update? It is so clear now. Why do I have to wait for the record to get saved and then throw an error if I can do it before itself? So I'm going for before update only. So I'm saying before update. What is the context variable available for account ACC and then trigger.new? Now, what is the requirement? Requirement is that account number cannot be updated or account number cannot be changed. How can we know if the account number has been changed or not? By using context variables again. So I have trigger.old map. So this time I will write it trigger.old map dot get acc.id and then dot account number not equal to acc.account number. Then what should happen? I need to throw an error. Account number cannot be updated. Very simple scenario. What are we just trying to do here? We are just trying to see if a field value got changed or not. How are we trying to do? By using old map. Why are you using old map? Because this old map will give you the record with old values if you give me the ID. How can you give the ID? By using trigger.new. By using trigger.new, you are getting the iterating record. From the iterating record, you can get the ID. If you pass this ID to this old map, it will give you the entire record. And from this record, you are just looking at this specific field. And this specific field value is being compared with the iterating record, which is holding the new value. So the bottom line is you are just trying to compare the value of this field. You are comparing old value with the new value. And then if you feel that both of them are unequal or not same, then immediately you are throwing an error. Let us quickly test this. Accounts. And then I'm choosing an existing record. And if you see, I'm trying to give some value over here. I'm changing it. So when I say account number cannot be updated. So this is how you are making use of trigger.old map. I just wanted it to this example so that you can understand how better this if condition can be written. So thing to keep in mind is by using trigger.old map, we are getting the old value, and by using the old value, we are comparing it with the new value, and thus we are coming to a conclusion that a field value has been changed. As we do not have a predefined function like is changed, we are comparing old value with the new value to come to a conclusion that a value is changed for this specific field. Then delete. One opportunity cannot be deleted. Now, which DML event, which trigger? Okay, let's take this. One opportunity cannot be deleted. Okay, object is opportunity. Then what is the event? Now the event is opportunity one cannot be deleted. Okay, deletion is what it is all about. Okay, fine. Which event should I go for? Should I go for before or after? Why will I go for after? Why do I have to wait for some save to happen? Why can't I do it immediately? Because I'm thinking throw an error and I have no dependency for the record to get saved. So I'm going for before delete only. Now let me write a trigger like this. Apex trigger and then restrict deletion. And the object is opportunity. Submit. Now our event is before delete. Now, what is the context variable that is available for before delete? Is there anything new coming into the system? No, there is nothing new coming into the system. So for before delete, we have something called as trigger.old. Okay, fine. We will use trigger.old. Opportunity, OPP, trigger.old. Then, should we throw error all the time whenever user is trying to delete? No, there is a condition for error to come up. What is that condition? If opportunity stage name is closed one, and if the user is trying to delete only, then throw an error. Okay, fine. So opp.add error, closed opportunities cannot be deleted. That's it. Our trigger will fire only in the delete context. And in the delete context, you have an if condition. And if condition is met, then you will get an error. So let us quickly see this. So opportunities, test del. It is already closed one. I'm trying to delete it. Now if you see, I will be getting an error, validation error while saving records. The appearance of error will be different in lightning experience, but still error will come up for sure. There was a custom validation error encountered while saving the affected records. The validation was closed opportunities cannot be deleted. Now if you see, this specific scenario is looking very simple for you. The code might be very easy, but let me tell you, this cannot be implemented by using any other way. You cannot achieve it by using a validation rule, because your validation rule fires only for insert and update. You cannot achieve this by using flows. Your flow can fire at before delete context, but your flow is not capable of throwing errors. Then the only way available for us is to make use of trigger. You might be wondering, with the scenarios what all I have taken so far, they can be achieved so easily by using a process builder or workflow. But still, the reason why I took those scenarios is to make yourself aligned on the usage of corresponding context variables, so that if at all a new requirement comes which cannot be achieved by using them, you will be able to write trigger on your own. So trigger is all about understanding the correct usage of context variables, the efficient usage of collection variables, the minimal utilization of resources, and gain maximum efficiency. That is what a trigger is all about. Because let me tell you, if you write one wrong trigger, and if that is being used in a company in real time, then no job can be done. Let's assume that you have written a wrong trigger on opportunity which is throwing error unnecessarily. Let's assume that you have not written this if condition at all. This is how you have written, you wrote your logic. Then you think that any opportunity can be deleted by anyone in the system. No one is capable of deleting an opportunity, because if you delete an opportunity, immediately an error will come up. So you need to be so sure while writing a trigger, because trigger is event centric and object specific, that will get executed for any DML that happens on the record, due to which we have to be double sure while writing a trigger on the event, on the context variables, on the collection variables, and also on the functionality. Are we missing any scenarios, or are we trying to execute our trigger unnecessarily for a scenario which is not really needed? So this is how we will be writing. Now let us look at few advanced scenarios. With that, we will be able to gain some good amount of knowledge on triggers. These are all kind of basic scenarios just to understand the usage of old map and new map. I have written this. Now let us look at one good example, and with that we will move on to the Apex class. Okay, create a field by name Warner email on account that holds the email of the Warner. Okay, so I'm going to account and I'm creating a new field. I'm choosing text for now. I'm not choosing email. I'm choosing text, and I will tell you the reason why. So I'm just saying Warner email. Next. Save. Okay. So I'm creating a new trigger. Update Warner email on object account. Submit. Now you tell me what event should I look at. My requirement is create a field by name Warner email on account that holds the email of the Warner. Okay, email of the Warner, whoever is the Warner, for that Warner, whatever is the email, that should be stamped. If I open this, okay, he is the Warner. For this specific user, this is the email. So I have to stamp this email on the new field that I have just created. Okay. So what could be the events? Obviously, the events are insert and update. While insertion, there will be one Warner, whoever is the Warner, he will be coming up. And if the user is trying to change the Warner, then he will also come up. Okay, now the events are after insert, before insert and then before update. Why do you have to wait for the record to get saved just for populating the email? I can do it before saving itself, so that I'm utilizing less number of resources. What is the common context variable available for both? Trigger.new, our account objacc trigger.new. Then now we know how to make use of this specific if condition. So I'm writing using this if condition here. What is the field that I have to look at? Warner ID. Because Warner is a lookup field, I have to use Warner ID. As it is a standard field, I'm using ID here. So what am I trying to do here? I am trying to see, okay, if the insertion is happening, fine, do something. Or if the update is happening, don't blindly do it. Do it only if this condition is met. So this line is very important for you while writing your logic. So let me just post it here. Okay. So what did we try to do here now? We are just trying to iterate through trigger.new, and then what I'm trying to do, we are trying to see that, okay, if the user is trying to perform insertion, okay, fine, blindly go ahead and do it. If the user is trying to do some update, do not blindly do it. Rather than blindly doing it, look for one other condition. And what is that condition? That condition is that Warner field is modified. How are we ensuring that owner field got modified? By looking at the old value and then the new value. Okay, but when you are saying that you are looking at the old value, is old value available all the time? No, old value is not available all the time. And if you use old value in an event for which it is not available, you will get attempt to dereference a null object. Then how are we ensuring that this is being used only for update and not for insert? Means by using one more context variable called trigger.isUpdate. By making use of trigger.isUpdate, I'm ensuring that old map will be coming into picture only in this specific scenario and not in any other scenario. Okay, fine. Now what is the requirement? My requirement is that owner, what is the field name? Owner email. Okay, this should hold the objacc.owner.email. I have a field called email on the owner, and that should be populated onto this specific field. But I am pretty much sure that this will not work. Why? Trigger.new will give you details of just to objacc, but you are trying to look at something which is on the parent of objacc. Owner is more like a user object. It's not more like user object, it's a user object. You are trying to refer to a field on something which is different. How will the system do that now? How will the system understand which email should be fetched? Moreover, owner is not something which is available for trigger.new. Trigger.new can just tell you the owner ID, that's it. But it cannot tell you what is the field that is present on its parent record. For getting this, obviously you have to end up writing a SQL query. So let us understand again the process of writing a SQL query. Now what should I do? User, obj user is equal to select id comma email from user, where id equal to objacc.owner id. Then what will I do? I will just say obj_user.email. Okay, this will work absolutely fine for me. What am I trying to do now? I'm just trying to query for the corresponding user record of the owner, and then I am just putting the email. This will work absolutely fine, but this is not at all right. Why? SQL query is present inside the for loop. Now how should I avoid SQL query inside the for loop? Okay, first let us understand. We are trying to write our SQL query on the user object. Okay, fine. Immediately go ahead and create a map. Okay, what should this map hold? To this map, if you give the id, it should give you the record. To this map, if you give you the id, it should give you the record. Okay, fine, I can give the id. Now should this map hold users of all the users present in my system, or only specific users? Yes, only specific users. Who are those specific users? Those specific users are none but the owners of the records that are being inserted or updated. Okay, fine, let us capture all the owner ids then. Okay, for capturing all the owner IDs, let us create one more variable. Set owner IDs is equal to new set of ID. So capture the owner IDs dot add objacc dot owner ID. Then what should we do now? Let's populate this map. I can write this directly over here. Here I am writing a SQL query now stating that select ID comma email from user, where ID in, I have this field. Now what I will do here, I don't need this query in the SQL query at all. Owner email is equal to, I have this map user. To this map user, if I give my accounts owner ID, if I give my accounts owner ID, it will give me the entire user record. From this user record, I can just use the email. So I'm just explaining it again. We did this in the first example only, but I'm just explaining it again now. What are we trying to do first? We are trying to capture all the owner IDs because that is belonging to a different object, and that object record fields are not available in trigger.new. Okay, fine. So what did we do? First, we captured all the IDs of the record. Then what did we do? We have created a map so that if to this map, if you give the ID, it will give you the record. Then what are we trying to do? We are just iterating through our trigger.new, and then in this objacc, you have owner ID. You are trying to give owner ID to this map, and this map is giving you the user record. From this user record, you are just taking only the email and not anything else. So this is how you will be able to write your trigger. If you see here, we avoided a SQL query inside a for loop by making use of set and then a map. We are avoiding a DML inside a for loop by making use of a list. So all the three collection variables are very, very important for us in order to write good code. Now let us quickly test this. Now I will, okay, I cannot change the owner because I am the only user present in my org. So I'll just try to create a new account. Account owner is Aditya Tirchuri, and if you see, owner email got populated. From here, email got populated. And how is the code written? By making sure that there are no for loops written. There are no SQL queries or DMLs written inside the for loop. We are using before, completely we are using it before, because the record that has to be updated doesn't have to work with the ID at all. We don't have to wait for the record to get saved. So that is the reason why we went for before. Does it mean that this should happen all the time? No, this should happen only when owner is changed. So that's why we have our if condition concrete. Then can we get the email of the user record? Means yes, for that you have to write a SQL query. But is it allowed to write SQL query inside for loop? Yes, it is allowed, but that's a very bad practice. So how did we avoid it? Rather than writing our SQL query inside a for loop, we wrote the SQL query outside the for loop. If you write it outside the for loop, then how will you get the record, or how will you get the details of the record that is being iterated? Means you will be creating a map. To this map, you will be providing the details of your iterating record, or whatever you wanted to do with the iterating record. You will be providing those details to the map, and that map will give you enough details. With the details that map is returning to you, you are trying to do your job done. So this is how you are actually trying to get the things done. So always remember that your if condition should be concrete enough. For avoiding lists inside for loop, make use of list collection variables. And to avoid SQL queries inside for loop, make use of set and map. Okay, let's take a break, and then maybe we can come and see a few more examples.
Yeah, we can have a break for 10 minutes and we can join by 11:30. Okay.